Deep roots, strong trunk, spreading branches. A framework for building depth before chasing expansion. Written by Mr. David Yimika, Wright. A note before you begin. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes not from doing too little, but from doing too much of the wrong things, from chasing branches before you have a trunk, from reaching for fruit before you have roots. This book was written for that exhaustion. It was written for the professional who cannot understand why their career feels hollow, despite their credentials, for the person who keeps starting new habits only to watch them collapse, for the relationship builder who wonders why connections feel shallow, for the achiever who has everything on paper and nothing in the bones. Deep roots, strong trunk, spreading branches. This is not just a metaphor, it is a complete philosophy of growth, one that insists that depth must always precede expansion, that stability must always precede success, and that the quality of your foundation determines the quality of everything built upon it. Throughout this book, you will encounter a vocabulary designed specifically to anchor these ideas in your memory. These are not buzzwords, they are handles. Words shaped to fit the concepts so that when life gets loud and pressure gets heavy, you have something precise to hold on to. Read slowly. This book is not meant to be consumed. It is meant to be grown into. Begin at the soil. Chapter 1. Soil Setting. How to prepare the inner ground for outer growth. A restless mind is like loose soil. Nothing can take root in ground that will not be still. The forgotten first step. Before a seed is planted, before a root can form, before any growth is possible, the ground must be prepared. In agriculture, this is called tilling. In life, it is called settling the mind. And it is the step almost everyone skips. We live in an era of instant action. The cultural instruction is clear: move fast, ship early, iterate constantly. And while that rhythm has its place in specific contexts, it has been catastrophically misapplied to the inner life. We treat our minds like dashboards, always on, always displaying, always demanding input, and we wonder why nothing we plant seems to take hold. Soil setting is the practice of creating inner stillness deliberately and regularly. It is not meditation, though meditation can be part of it. It is not rest, though rest is one of its products. It is the intentional act of quieting the noise long enough for your actual self, your values, your desires, your real direction to become audible. What does loose soil look like? You begin new projects with intense energy that evaporates within weeks. You scroll through others' achievements and feel a vague but persistent dread. You cannot sit in silence without reaching for distraction. You feel busy but not productive, active but not advancing. Your goals keep changing, not because you are growing, but because nothing is sticking. These are not character flaws. They are symptoms of ground that has not been settled. You cannot plant intentions in chaos and expect them to take root. The practice of soil setting. Begin with 10 to 15 minutes each morning before any screen, conversation, or demand is introduced. This is not optional time. It is foundational time. During this window, your only task is to let the sediment settle. Sediment settles when you stop stirring. The thoughts will still come. The anxieties will still surface. But without the constant stirring of new inputs, they will begin to organize themselves into something you can actually work with. Once per week, spend 30 minutes asking a single question. What do I actually want? Not what looks good. Not what others expect. Not what you said you wanted 6 months ago. What do you want now from this life with these capacities in this season? Write the answer. Writing is the act of tilling. It breaks up compacted soil, aerates it, makes it receptive. The question does not need a final answer. The practice of returning to it is itself the groundwork. Nothing disrupts soil setting more reliably than canopy envy, the distress of comparing your roots to someone else's branches. When you scroll through someone's visible success, their title, their audience, their achievements, you are seeing the canopy of a tree whose root season may have lasted years. You are comparing your foundations to their fruits, and this comparison is not only unfair, it is functionally useless. The antidote is not to stop looking at others, it is to develop such fascination with your own root system that comparison loses its grip. When you are genuinely absorbed in building your foundation, the branches of others become interesting rather than threatening. You cannot grow someone else's tree, you can only deepen your own roots. Chapter 2. The Root Season. Why invisible progress is still progress. Roots grow in the dark. If you only trust what you can see, you will pull them up before they are ready. We live in an age of radical visibility. Every step, every milestone, every acquisition is shareable, measurable, and comparable. This has created a new and particularly vicious form of anxiety, the terror of invisible progress. If growth is not visible, if it cannot be posted, quantified, or announced, many people conclude it is not happening. They abandon the work just before the breakthrough. They move to a new project because the current one has not yet produced evidence of its value. They interpret the silence of the root season as the silence of failure. This is the great misunderstanding of how sustainable growth actually works. The most important development in any tree's life happens underground, in darkness, without any fanfare. The same is true for you. A root season is a deliberate period. It can last weeks, months, or years, in which you commit to deepening your foundations without demanding visible returns. During a root season, you are not being passive. You are being strategic about where your energy goes. Every hour you invest in genuine depth accumulates depth currency, the invisible wealth of true competence, character, and capacity. Unlike attention, followers, or credentials, depth currency cannot be faked and does not depreciate. It compounds. A professional who spends 3 years building deep expertise in a specific domain will, in year 4, find that opportunities begin to arrive without being chased. This is not luck. This is depth currency paying dividends. Then there is green branch syndrome, the pattern of pursuing new opportunities before completing the growth cycle of current commitments. It is seductive because new branches are exciting, and because the excitement of novelty can feel indistinguishable from genuine momentum. But green branches are not load-bearing. They look alive, but they cannot yet support weight. When you overload them with expectation and responsibility before they have matured, they snap. The branch that reaches too far before it is strong enough will break under the first weight of weather. Let it mature first. The hardest part of the root season is that it will feel like nothing is happening. Others will appear to be moving faster. New opportunities will arise and tempt you. Your own impatience, which is really root hunger in disguise, will generate compelling arguments for why you should pivot, accelerate, or expand. The practice is to return every time to the question, have I gone as deep as I can go here? More often than not, the honest answer is no. Stay, deepen. Trust that the roots are forming even when you cannot see them. Chapter 3. Heartwood Identity. Building a trunk that cannot be broken. A strong trunk does not mean no storms. It means you do not break under them. At the center of every mature tree is heartwood, the oldest and densest, most stable wood in the entire structure. It is no longer actively growing. It does not transport water or nutrients, but it is the reason the tree can stand in a 100-kilometer wind without falling. It is the reason branches can extend without the whole structure collapsing under their weight. Your heartwood identity is the equivalent, the unchanging core of your values, your character, and your commitments that holds everything else up. It is not your personality, which is adaptable. It is not your mood, which fluctuates. It is something older and denser, what you would be if everything external were stripped away. The trunk is built brick by brick through keeping promises to yourself, not the dramatic promises, the small ones, the commitment to get up when the alarm sounds, the decision to speak honestly when it would be easier to deflect, the choice to finish what you started even though the initial excitement has evaporated. Every broken self-promise weakens your trunk slightly. Every kept promise, no matter how small, strengthens it. This is why discipline is not a productivity strategy. It is structural. It is how you become someone whose core can be relied upon by yourself above all. A strong trunk does not mean the absence of emotion. It means having a well-organized emotional architecture, the capacity to feel fully without being governed by feeling. This is built through naming emotions accurately rather than venting them indiscriminately or suppressing them entirely, creating space between stimulus and response, the pause in which you choose your reaction rather than simply having it, and processing difficult emotions through writing, conversation, or reflection rather than displacement activities. Many people have aspirational values, things they say they care about. Fewer have operational values, things they actually use to make decisions. The trunk is made of operational values. To identify yours, look backwards. What values are actually present in your best decisions? What values are conspicuously absent in your worst ones? The gap between aspirational and operational values is the renovation site of your trunk. You cannot control the storms that come. You can build a trunk that knows how to survive them. Chapter 4. Branching Too Soon. The hidden cost of premature expansion. Fast growth without roots does not lead to abundance. It leads to collapse with extra steps. Branches are where the fruit is. They are also where the flowers are, where the visible beauty of growth displays itself to the world. It is entirely natural to want to branch. The problem is not the desire. The problem is the timing. Branching too soon, expanding commitments, relationships, businesses, creative projects, or influence before the root system and trunk can sustain them is the single most common cause of what looks from the outside like bad luck, but is actually structural failure. You have seen it. The entrepreneur who scales before they have solved the product. The professional who takes the senior role before they have finished learning the intermediate one. The person who begins a new relationship while still unresolved in the last one. In every case, the branches look promising. In every case, they broke. Every trunk has a carrying capacity, a maximum weight of branches it can support at any given stage of its development. Exceed it, and the entire structure is compromised. Work within it, and each branch strengthens the trunk by drawing resources upward through the whole system. Your carrying capacity is determined by the quality of your roots and the current strength of your trunk. It is not fixed. It grows as you grow, but it must be honestly assessed before you extend a new branch. Pruning is not failure. It is care. When you cut back a branch that is drawing disproportionate energy from the root system, you are not diminishing the tree. You are redirecting its resources toward growth that can actually be sustained. Pruning in life looks like voluntarily stepping back from commitments that have exceeded your current carrying capacity. It looks like finishing rather than adding. It looks like saying, with clarity and without apology, not yet, or not this one. The right branch at the wrong time is still the wrong branch. Wait until the trunk can hold it. Chapter 5. The Photosynthesis Loop. How deep roots produce extraordinary results. You do not force branches, you build the conditions in which they become inevitable. There comes a point in the life of a tree and in the life of a person who has done the foundational work when the dynamic shifts. The straining and struggling and digging in the dark gives way to something that feels almost effortless. Opportunities arrive without being chased. Connections deepen without being engineered. Results appear without the same grinding effort they once required. This is not luck. This is not magic. This is the photosynthesis loop, the virtuous cycle that activates when your root system is deep enough, your trunk strong enough, and your branches mature enough to begin converting external resources into genuine growth. Stage 1. The root draw. Your root system draws from your foundational investments, the skills you have built, the emotional stability you have cultivated, the clarity of your values, the trust you have accumulated in yourself. The deeper your roots, the more resources are available. Stage 2. The trunk integration. The trunk integrates what the roots draw. Experiences, learning, and resources are processed, organized, and converted into stable capacity. Reflection is the trunk's mechanism for integration. Without it, experiences pass through without depositing their wisdom. Stage 3. The branch conversion. Integrated resources become visible outputs, results, achievements, creative work, influence, income, relationships. At this stage, the work feels different, not effortless, but aligned. Stage 4. The soil enrichment. What falls from the branches returns to enrich the soil. Your reputation attracts better opportunities. Your credibility creates access. Your impact generates relationships. The loop closes and begins again at a higher level. This is not hustle culture. This is ecosystem thinking. Everything feeds everything else, and the whole becomes more than the sum of its parts.
Chapter 6. Stormproof. Building a life that bends without breaking. The tallest trees in the forest are also the most tested. They stand not because storms miss them, but because everything underneath made space for the storm to pass. No root system, no matter how deep. No trunk, no matter how strong. No life, no matter how carefully cultivated, is exempt from storm. The question is never whether storms will come. The question is always what kind of tree they find when they arrive. Stormproof is not a promise of safety. It is a description of structural integrity, the quality of a life built deeply enough that difficulty passes through it rather than destroying it. The stormproof life bends dramatically, sometimes alarmingly, in high weather, but the roots hold, the trunk holds, and when the storm passes, the tree is still standing. A tree whose trunk cannot flex will snap. A person who cannot adapt, accommodate, or hold complexity will shatter under the inevitable pressures of a long life. Trunk flexibility is not weakness, it is advanced structural design. Flexibility is built through the practice of holding multiple things to be true simultaneously. I am struggling and I will get through this. This is hard and it is not permanent. I made a serious mistake and I am not irredeemable. Trees and forests are vastly more stormproof than solitary trees because their root systems are interconnected. In difficult conditions, they share resources through underground networks. Your human equivalent is the community of genuine, deep relationships you have cultivated over time. Here is the counterintuitive truth that every mature tree embodies. Storms deepen roots. The resistance of high winds sends the root system deeper in response. The tree that has survived 10 storms has roots that a sheltered tree of the same age cannot match. The hardest experiences in your life, survived consciously, processed honestly, integrated through reflection, are among your most powerful root seasons. They deposit a form of depth currency that no comfortable period can produce. The lived knowledge of your own capacity, the embodied certainty that you can withstand difficult things. The most rooted people you will ever meet are rarely the ones who had the easiest lives. They are the ones who used the hard ones well.
Chapter 7. The Living Tree. Integrating the framework into daily life. You are not building a monument, you are tending a living thing. Living things need daily attention, not occasional renovation. Every concept in this book is only as valuable as its application. Frameworks that remain in the mind without descending into daily practice are the most sophisticated form of procrastination there is. This chapter is for descending. Begin each day with a brief, honest inventory. It takes no more than 5 minutes, and it anchors everything that follows. Soil. Is my mind settled enough today to make clear decisions? If not, what do I need to do before engaging with demands? Roots. What am I building today that will compound over time? Not just what I'm doing, but what I'm becoming. Trunk. Am I making decisions today from my values or from pressure, comparison, or distraction? Branches. Am I extending new commitments today? If so, does my current root system have the carrying capacity? The original terminology in this book is designed to do one thing: give you precise language for experiences that were previously blurry. Precise language enables precise navigation. When you feel the pull of a new opportunity before completing your current work, you now have a name for it: green branch syndrome. When you feel restless with your progress and want to consume someone else's results as a mirror of your inadequacy, you now have a name for it: canopy envy. When you feel exhausted by doing too many things at too shallow a level, you now have a name for what you need: a root season. A life built on deep foundations does not promise the absence of difficulty, uncertainty, or failure. It promises something more valuable: the capacity to sustain difficulty without being destroyed by it, the ability to weather uncertainty without being paralyzed by it, the resilience to fail and return without being broken by the falling. The tree does not know when its first spring will come. It knows only that roots are its business, and that spring has always followed the deepest winters. Go deep, build your trunk, let the branches find their time. Your roots are your wealth, your trunk is your character. Your branches are your gift to the world. Tend all three, and you will have lived a life worth the growing. You have been listening to Deep Roots, Strong Trunk, Spreading Branches by Mr. David Yimika Wright. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved.